Today, in the media conference with Lal Goel, which is brought to you by V4NEWS, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Karu News, Organ Donation India Foundation, Gyan, and Indo-Gulf Management Association. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic every day. And today's topic is not only current, but very, very relevant and very important. And the topic is people, planet, and profit in business. But before I will go on the main topic, I would like to inform you that today India is celebrating Indian Navy Day. Navy Day in India is celebrated on 4th December every year to recognize the achievements and role of the Indian Navy to the country. 4th December was chosen as that day. In 1971, during Operation Trident, the Indian Navy sank 4 Pakistani vessels, including PNS Khyber, killing hundreds of Pakistani's Navy personals. On this day, those who martyred in the Indo-Pakistan War of 1971 are also remembered. The Indian Navy has an important role in securing the marine borders of the country, as well as enhancing the international relations of India through seaports visits, joint exercises, humanitarian community relief, and so on. The modern Indian Navy has undergone speedy renovation in order to improve its position in the Indian Ocean region. The strength of the Indian Navy includes over 67,000 personnel and about 150 ships and submarines. Media conference with Lal Goel wishes you all a very happy Indian Navy Day. Now coming to the main topic, that is people, planet, and profit in business. In a world where profit is consistently put before both people and the planet, climate economics has everything to do with ethics and morality. There is no business on a dead planet. The triple bottom line, or otherwise noted as TBL or 3BL, is an accounting framework with 3 parts: social, environmental or ecological, and financial. Some organizations have adopted the TBL framework to evaluate their performance in a broader perspective to create greater business value. Business writer John Ellington claims to have coined the phrase in 1994. In traditional business accounting and common uses, the bottom line refers to either the profit or loss, which is usually recorded at the very bottom line on a statement of revenue and expenses. Over the last 50 years, environmentalists and social justice advocates have struggled to bring a broader definition of bottom line into public consciousness by introducing full cost accounting. For example, if a corporation shows a monetary profit, but their asbestos mine causes thousands of deaths from asbestos, and their copper mine pollute a river, and the government ends up spending taxpayers' money on healthcare and river cleanup, how do we perform a full societal cost benefit analysis? The triple bottom line adds 2 more bottom lines: social and environmental ecological concerns. With the ratification of the United Nations and ICLEI TBL standard for urban and community accounting in early 2007, this became the dominant approach to public sector full cost accounting. Similar UN standards apply to natural capital and human capital measurement to assist in measurements required by TBL. For example, the eco-budget standard for reporting ecological footprint. Use of the TBL is fairly widespread in South African media, as found in a 1990-2008 study of worldwide national newspapers. An example of an organization seeking a triple bottom line would be a social enterprise run as a non-profit but earning income by offering opportunities for handicapped people who have been labeled unemployable to earn a living by recycling. The organization earns a profit which is invested back into the community. The social benefit is the meaningful employment of the disadvantaged citizens and the reduction in the society's welfare or disability costs. The environmental benefit comes from the recycling accomplished In the private sector, a commitment to corporate social responsibility, CSR, implies an obligation to public reporting about the business substantial impact for the better of the environment and people. Triple bottom line is one framework for reporting this material impact. This is distinct from the more limited changes required to deal only with ecological issues. The triple bottom line has also been extended to encompass 4 pillars known as the quadruple bottom line, QBL. The 4 pillar denotes a future-oriented approach, future generations, intergenerational equity, etc. It is long-term outlook that sets sustainable development and sustainability concerns apart from previous social, environmental, and economic considerations. The challenges of putting the TBL into practice relate to the measurement of social and ecological categories. Despite this, the TBL framework enables organizations to take a longer term perspective and thus evaluate the future consequences of decisions. The 3 P's of sustainability are a well-known and accepted business concept. The P's refer to people, planet, and profit, also often referred to as the triple bottom line. Sustainability has the role of protecting and maximizing the benefits of the 3 P's. And to discuss this people, planet, and profit in business, we have very elite, knowledgeable experts, those who are authority in this particular topic, and those who have well experienced panelists are with me. I would like to invite my first panelist guest, and she is Dr. Madhu Datta. Dr. Madhu Datta is the President and Chief Green Officer of the Greener Health Company and Associate Professor of Practice, Boston University, USA. She is an MIT educated dreamer, designer, dancer, and entrepreneur. She has been a professor of architecture and planning for over 2 decades and recently founded the Greener Health Benefit Corporation. She is an award-winning practitioner and has lectured worldwide on issues where human development and climate change collide. Her mission is to make the world a better place by creating people, plant, and planet-friendly green prints, policies, and movements for equitable, green, and healthy environments. Welcome, Dr. Madhu Datta, on our show. Dr. Madhu Datta, you being the champion for this 3 Ps, definitely we would like to know your views on this very, very important topic, that is people, planet, and profit in business. Dr. Madhu Datta, please.
Mr. Goel and expert panelists, thank you so much for having me this morning. I really appreciate it. I am zooming in from Boston, so it's about, I want to say, 12 a.m. in the night. So, but I'm delighted to be here all the same, and I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. I would love to go to any and every forum really to speak about this thing because it's so very important. And Mr. Goel, your excellent introduction really framed the whole thing in a very academic, theoretical, as well as economic point of view. And I really appreciate it. I'm a little out of sorts because I had this beautiful presentation planned for today, but I'm going to try to paint some word pictures as I about, I want to say 12 to 15 minutes. And the ideal outline for my talk would be, I want to start with this little story. I want to talk about the organizational fears that are associated with adopting the PPP, or the planet, profit, people approach. And then I also want to give a sense of what it really means to have the PPP approach and what does that mean? Is it really that either you go for the triple bottom line or then you're not successful or profitable? So I want to put things in context, particularly in terms of what is going on, particularly with climate change. And last but not the least, I want to provide about, I want to say 4 or 5 big pieces that form the framework, and I call it the business logic of sustainability. So, Mr. Goel, please let me know if I go over time. I can always come back and we can resume the conversation. And I am so happy to have others chime in as we move along. So, for the first part, I really want to start with a story. And this is where you have to stretch your imagination and think that you are in this amazing place in Brazil where there is these beautiful coffee plantations, one after another, after another. And in the story, there are about, I want to say, 3 main characters. The first main character is really just a cup of really great coffee. The second one is our farmer in Brazil, whose name is Pedro. And the third person is this young executive from Wall Street who goes every day to his local coffee shop and pays about $6 just to have that cup of coffee. Now, what's really interesting is that when you start to map out the connections between the coffee, between our farmer in Brazil, and then this executive who has gone to this coffee shop and is paying $6 for a cup of latte, it's really interesting to understand that there is one company or many companies who do this exact same thing. In fact, I'm forgetting the exact numbers, but the number of coffee drinkers, both in the United States as well as the world, has gone up. The demand for coffee is really, really high, whereas the supply for coffee is slowly reducing. Now, in order for this coffee company to be successful, it needs to really think about these 3 players. The first player is the cup of coffee. And as a company, we always want to ensure that we have good availability and the quality of the coffee is going to be really, really good. Now, with Pedro is in this very, very critical business of actually being in the plantations in Brazil and really rearing the coffee beans and getting it processed to a point where this coffee company can then start to bag it and ship it and bring it back. And then the third person is this young executive in Wall Street. And every single day, he needs to have his fix of coffee. And he's the steady customer base, along with so many other people. Now, once the company started to understand these 3 parts, it also understood that each of these really stood for the 3 pillars of sustainability. So, one was the economic aspect, which was the consumer base, which this guy from Wall Street and so many others kept buying the coffee every single day. The other one was Pedro, our farmer, who made sure day in and day out, many like him, that the sourcing of the raw product was quite there. And then, of course, the cup of coffee, and that was contingent on all these players doing their part. So, in a way, we need to stop thinking about, much like what this coffee company discovered, we need to really stop thinking about environmental justice or then environmental consciousness as being something we should do after the fact. Because if we don't do it, like this coffee company, we realize that we really won't be able to survive because the availability and quality of coffee, the investment in people, and ensuring customer base are really interlinked in such a way that you can't really do without the other. And so this is where we look at planet, which is the environmental component, the people, which is the farmer in Brazil, and that is the social component. And as Mr. Goel put it, the last part is the profit, which is the economic component. And these really make up the 3 pillars of sustainability. How am I doing on time? Are we good?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Wonderful. So I just want to, this is the slide where now you're going to see which the coffee company is, and it's Starbucks. And what's really interesting is that Starbucks began in 1971 with three academics in Seattle, where they opened their first coffee shop. And now, in 50 years, it's almost an $80 billion company. And right from the beginning, Starbucks made sure that it really had the at its heart the well-being of its people, of its employers, of its customers, of the people who procured coffee. And the entire supply chain was not something that was purposely harmful to the environment or the people. Starbucks, as many of you may know, has 40% share of the US coffee shop market. And this is according to the World's Coffee Portal. Now, apart from Starbucks, there are many, many, many companies where in the three pillars of sustainability, or people, planet, and profit, really is at the core of their business venture. And I'm going to name 9 such companies where their annual revenue is almost more than $1 billion. And these companies are like Tesla, Chipotle, IKEA, Unilever, Nike, Toyota, and a Brazilian company called Natura, Whole Foods, and also G's Eco Imagination. And it's really interesting to understand that these companies really have the triple bottom line as their framework, and they have done nothing but really grow over the years, particularly with climate change creating so many supply chain problems, so many sourcing problems, and so on. And so it's very important to understand that sustainability can be made profitable, but it can only be made profitable if we are looking at the social, the economic, as well as the environmental aspects altogether. Because without one, it's really, really difficult to make the others happen. The last thing I want to say is that it absolutely should become underscored that the business as usual model is not going to work. And when I say business as usual model, in climate science, it means temperature range within which we need to operate to actually be alive and do well. And within the business community, it is doing business like we used to without paying attention to this triple bottom line. And it's fundamental to understand that this business as usual model cannot continue as we move forward. Just like life can grow and reproduce within a temperature range of, let's say, minus 15 degrees to 122 degrees centigrade, it's critical that with the way the world is changing, with the devastations, with the climate change, with the inequities that are increasing day by day, businesses also cannot just look at the economic aspects to move forward, because without the supply, without the people sourcing it, without all of these things being part of the ecosystem, it is impossible for us to procure something, much less have quality, availability, as well as reliability. So if we know all of this, why are we afraid? And that brings me to the second part of my little talk. And really, we are afraid because it has been understood that there are lots of organizational fears. And those fears include the fear of cost, the fear of adoption, and of course, the fear of all these extra regulations that may come about if we start to adopt a framework where we have to look at both the social as well as the environmental, along with the economic. And so my argument then to you is that how long are we going to keep with the fears? We have come up with a million excuses to do so. But frankly, the equation has become really clear that either we are going to survive, let me say that again, either we are going to survive, and to do so, we have to overcome our fears of adoption of this PPP, fears of the added costs, and fears of the regulation. And there is enough of evidence that suggests that this is not only because of a fear or survival, but it's actually profitable to be sustainable. So I'm going to again put you in that space where I want you to imagine, let's say we go to Miami, and on the shores of Miami, there's the water levels that are constantly rising. And right there in the downtown, in the middle of the day when it's sunny, there are floods on the streets. So, what is our risk tolerance? How much, how high does the sea need to rise before we decide that we need to change our ways? Again, I want you to think about this raging fire, like the ones we had in California, where acres and acres of land and houses got burned and people were stranded. And again, I want to ask, what is our risk tolerance? How many fires are going to be too many fires? And we really need to understand that these are not just about devastations. Protecting against natural disasters makes good economic sense, because if you don't have the people to serve, who is going to be your consumer? If you don't have the product to sell, how are you going to even continue as a good business? In fact, all of these natural disasters now have been quantified to a great extent, and really, flooding from sea level rise alone could cost our planet about $14.2 trillion. And I don't even want to talk in the future or in absolutes. Just to give you a couple of figures, the National Centers for Environmental Information, NOAA, in the United States, released its 2020 final update of its what it calls its $1 billion disaster report. And it says that just in the year 2020, which was a year of historic extremes, there were 22 separate $1 billion weather and climate disasters just in the United States. And these 22 events cost about $95 billion in damages, which is about 25% of India's total budget. Again, if you start to look at this, in California, there was 2020 had a very record-breaking US wildfire season where almost 10.2 million acres were burnt down. And again, it's important to note that this is not just about the environment, it is about people. And then the recovery time from the damage is really a cut into the profits. So, in the end, as much as we'd like to put on our blinders, as much as we'd like to just look at the immediate bottom line and not the life cycle cost, it's really important for us to understand that the very things that make our consumers survive, as well as the businesses survive, such as food, water, energy, and even the air we breathe, these are all going to become costly commodities. These are going to become scarce commodities. And the business as usual model is really not going to work. So there are a couple of things I want to end with here. And that is, and this is not my own work. There's a lot of work that I have looked at, a lot of research that has been done on the PPP framework. But there are a couple of takeaways that I think would be important today, particularly when shaped through my experience. It's important to understand that for companies to survive, the business as usual model will not work anymore. And that is because of the reasons I explained, both to do with supply chain, sourcing, consumer base, and so on. In the end, no matter what we do, it is really neither about the environment nor is it about the economy. It is about the people. It is about the people. If you don't have the people, you don't really need a business, you don't really need an earth, you don't really need an economy, and so on. The economy, environment, and society need to be interlinked for business survival. And there's pretty good case to be made for that. There's strong evidence that suggests that. And then there is no silver bullet. Again, there is, people often ask, so what can we do? What can we do? Give us the prescription. How can we fix this? So here's the answer. Maybe many of you may not like, but it's the truth. There is no one silver bullet. We need to act on things big and small. And then I have some 4 more things, but I'll come back to it. But essentially, the point, the argument I'm trying to make today is that not only does this make good business sense, but with all the climate related disasters, all the economic and social inequities, it has become fundamental that we start looking at markets within this triple bottom line of sustainability. Otherwise, these markets will cease to exist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Madhu Datta, for giving your very enlightening talk. And what Dr. Madhu Datta has explained, which she has explained very nicely about the 3 Ps. Only I would like to highlight that she has given an example of Starbucks. And we all know about the Starbucks. And we all go there and have a cup of coffee or latte. But we never thought of what she has shown, that how a farmer is growing the coffee and how it is coming and how they are keeping the climate intact. And that is the success story of the Starbucks. So according to her, if the corporates are keeping all the 3 in mind, is the society, the people, and the climate or the planet, then the profit will all automatically be there. But if you are only keeping your profit in mind, then if the planet will not be there, the people will not be there, what you will do? So if you want to be a successful businessman, you have to take care of your employees, your customers, you have to take care of the raw material growers, wherever it is coming, and definitely the planet. So thank you very much, Dr. Madhu Datta, for explaining it in such a easy way that a person like me, for whom it's like a very heavy dose of topic, can understand. So I'm sure all our viewers are quite enlightened today with this very nice and easy talk from Dr. Madhu Datta. Thank you very much. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Professor Washington. Professor Washington is a lecturer in business and management at the University of West London Business School in London. He teaches in strategic management, principles of management, and business ethics. He has interests in employee voice, employee engagement, employee commitment, and leadership. He takes his research from a qualitative perspective and has published internationally. Welcome, Professor Washington, on our show. Professor Washington, you have heard what Dr. Madhu Datta has explained, and her thing is very clear that please take care of the corporate or the big business house. Even the government should take care of the people, the planet, and then definitely the profit will follow. We would like to know, because you are expert in the interest for the employees' voice, employee engagement, etc. So basically, you are dealing with 1 P, that is the people. Definitely, other P's will follow once you take care of the employee. Definitely, the customer will also be taken care. So we would like to know your views on people, planet, and profit in business. Professor Washington, please.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers. Good morning, everybody on the platform. I'm happy to have this opportunity. Why? Because it is a very interesting topic to my heart. The world is panicking. The world is panicking. about the sustainability, climate change, and we've got this model, which is people, planet, and profit. To my research, to my interest, I realize that this concept is no longer working. We really need to drive all the P's together. Let me start from the top. When you look at the P's, let's start from the profit. The business, when you talk of the business model or the business as usual, just like what my previous speaker said, it was founded from making profit. That is business. Now adding other P's became a secondary approach. So what I'm trying to say here is people think of business and start thinking of making profit. When they are not making profit, that is not business. The planet, people are panicking about the planet now. We see wildfires, we see floods across the world. Why? Because what the profit is doing, what amount of profit we are making is now affecting the planet. The planets, because we're cutting down trees to make profit, because this is the business, what we are doing. So that is quite worrying when you look at the third P, because the third P is the people. If I may ask, what do we mean by people? Sometimes we just say people because we're looking at the customers. We're looking at the people outside there in our countries. People P, that third P goes beyond just customers. Employees, how are they committed into the planet to make interest into scientists? The world is driven by science. The science is driving the world. The numbers are driving the world, but not everything is measurable. That is my argument. Not everything is measurable. So the science is driving the world, and we see people cutting the trees, and we start counting how many trees are going. We see hurricanes, we start counting how many are they, how many are they. But let me drive you to another angle of seeing these PPP, 3 Ps. Let's look at people. There is this concept of engagement. Those people who are affected by climate change, do they know the effects? Why are they not engaged? I think we have come to a point where even in business, we really need to understand a customer from a qualitative point of view, rather than looking at quantitative to start counting the heads and say, we've got 50 customers, we've got 100 customers, therefore we are okay. What if they are there and they are not happy about your product? You are making profit and they are not happy. What about the employees who are producing the coffee in Starbucks? And these employees are not happy, yet they are forced to work every day. So that is my interest. I've done a lot of research around employee voice, whereby people are able to voice or not. Profit is not enough when employees are not happy and are forced to produce that profit. The climate can be controlled, it can be clean, it can be greener, but if employees are not happy, if they're not engaged, if they're not committed, then that is a challenge. So I'm happy that Dr. Madhu spoke about people are more important in this scenario of triple bottom line. That is very true. If we leave people behind and drive everything, a business using the numbers, we are missing the concept. Thank you very much. Mine is very short. Of course, I like to answer questions later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Washington, for giving your views. And one thing which he said, and that is very correct, that instead of social distancing, we must go for the physical distancing, not the social distancing. But one point which he has made is that the people is not only the customer or the people from the other countries or other places, but the employees also, because we have to keep the interest of the employees first. And if we will keep them happy, then definitely the production will be more, and once the chain, so it starts from the employee. So being he's interested in the employee's voice and employee's engagement, he says. And we have seen during the COVID time also that those companies who have taken the interest of their employees, they were very successful, and those who could not sustain their employees, they have to close their business. So employees' interests are required to be kept. And according to Mr. Washington, the people is the main thing. If the people will not be there, your business will not be there, the profit will not be there, then what you will do with the planet only. So everything has to be kept in mind, but the people is very important. Thank you very much, Mr. Washington, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and she is Miss Ming. Miss Ming is the CEO of Turnup Education, Abu Dhabi, UAE. In Dutch, her surname Noel means turn up. This humble root speaks to the purpose as consultants, which is based in Netherlands and Dubai. Like the Turner, and enriching learning community also has deep roots. Envisioning a better future starts by teaching students in how to balance between people, planet, and profit. They are our leaders of tomorrow. Welcome, Miss Ming on our show. Miss Ming, you have heard Dr. Madhu Datta as well as Mr. Washington, and they both have explained in details about the PPP things. And Dr. Madhu Datta emphasized that the planet is also important, but before that, the people, because if the people not be there, then there will be no profit or no business, and then what the planet will do. Similarly, Mr. Washington, and he emphasized more for the employees also. Now, we would like to know from you, your views on this people, planet, and profit in business. Ms. Ming, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for introducing me. My name is Minke Knol, and I'm the CEO of Turnup Education, like you already told. And we are a company based in the UAE. I'm zooming in from Abu Dhabi now. We live in Abu Dhabi. But we're also located in the Netherlands because I've worked in education for a very long time in the Netherlands as a teacher, as a principal, and as a consultant, and lots of things. So I love education. And in our company, our services are about social impact marketing, because we think it's very important that companies share their share on social media and how they achieve the PPP model, so other companies can learn from that. And we're also a specialist in school improvement, and we help schools on the road to become outstanding. So, Dr. Goel, you mentioned in your introduction, and it was quite impressive, that there is no business on a dead planet, and it's impressive because it makes it demonstrates how urgent this the situation is. And I think if we want to change the business as usual model to the people, planet, and profit model, we need to start in education. Because in my opinion, education is the key to a sustainable future. And unfortunately, there is still a big gap between education and society. And in order to change the world, to rescue our world, we need to start in education and close that gap and teach our students in how to think in a more sustainable way. And that's what we do in schools. We help them to change their mindset and to change their behavior. And I will tell you more about that in my presentation. I also had a PowerPoint, but I still cheat a bit on it. And I will share it afterwards with you. Well, I think in order to reach a sustainable society, we must learn to balance the needs of the planet with the needs of the people and the profit. And that sounds very easy, but it's not easy because we are not used to it. And I think profitability and sustainability shouldn't be seen as two separate items. They are on two sides of the coin. And well, that's why it's of course very important. And I also did some research in the UAE, and I think in the Netherlands, lots of companies already have the new business model based on people, planet, and profit. But in the UAE, I wasn't sure. So, of course, I also find the companies like Starbucks and Tesla and Patagonia, very nice company. But I also found this company located in Abu Dhabi, the Harbor Company. And they have this beautiful quote of our forefathers in the UAE, and I would like to share it with you. And I will read it now. On land and in the sea, our forefathers lived and survived in this environment. They were able to do so because they recognized the need to conserve it, to take from it only what they needed to live, and to preserve it for succeeding generations. And it's quoted by our late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan. And I think it's a beautiful quote, and this Harbor Company used this quote, and after that they present their new mission based on people, planet, and profit. I think the most difficult part is, and that's where you can learn your students about that, in how to make different choices, how to achieve economic, social, and environmental performance. You need to make behavior. And to do that, we need to integrate skills in schools, in education, and in the curriculum. Skills like problem solving. So if you are teaching business and you can solve the problem about Tata Steel I just mentioned with your students and how they can make different choices. You can teach your students in critical thinking, in how to collaborate. But that's very difficult because our teachers, they were taught in a complete different way. They never learned about skills like problem solving and critical thinking and collaboration. Because when we had schools 30 or 40 years ago, it was all about results and control and not about collaborating and skills. That was not common. So for teachers, it's very, very difficult to teach this to the students. So they need help from us, and we need to teach them and how to do it in a different way because it's not easy. How can we do that? We can start, of course, with collaboration in a school or in an organization. We need to collectively rethink and redefine how we value, protect, and restore our planet. If you want to change a business model, then you need to do that together, not by yourself. You can't say on a certain day, okay, now we have this business model based on people, planet, and profit. Just do it. That's not how it works. So the question is, how can schools help prepare 21st century learners for the future? What you see in many schools is that they pretend to be very sustainable. It's called also in the Netherlands window dressing. So they have an anti-bullying week, so only for 1 week, or in 1 week they're going to clean the beach with all the students. But their business model is not based on people, planet, and profit. I don't think that's the way. If you want to change, then you have to integrate your people, planet, and profit into your system. Sustainability education should never be viewed as separate from regular education. You have to integrate it and lead by example. If you are the principal of a school and you think my school is sustainable and you throw away your garbage on the street or drink your coffee from a plastic cup, I don't think that's the way. So first you have to change your behaviors and your mindset, and you start with a new strategy, with a new vision, a mission statement, and a strategy, and new goals, of course. And for schools, if you have that framework, then you can start building a future-proof curriculum. So if you have your new strategy based on people, planet, and profit, then you're going to work with your teachers in, okay, we have this now, how are we going to translate that to the lessons and to the students and into our school? And you need to do that together. Principals, school leaders, and teachers need to collaborate. So in that way, you can teach students the knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes that empower them to contribute to sustainable development and take action outside the classroom. That's the way you can change it. And you don't need to change it for just one subject, but you need to create a line with all your teachers from kindergarten until secondary. There has to be a line into it. And once every teacher knows how to do it, you have this new curriculum plan based on people, planet, and profit. They know what to do. Then you can start monitoring and evaluate how it's going. And you can coach the teachers. You can help them. You can train them, inspire them. And that's the moment when we have these new leaders and they know how to make sustainable choices. That's how it's working. That's how it's working, I think. And I think it's very important to keep it very simple. Like I'm also a teacher in Dutch language and literature. If I want to make this a change, I could use text about the planet, or we could write a paper about people, planet, and profit. We could have a debate about it. Just make it simple. It doesn't have to be very complicated. Or for business, you could create a new business plan or a marketing plan. What are the new financial results? How do you take into account the people and the planet and the profit? How do you measure the economic and the sustainable results? And for biology, I was at a great school last week and they had plants in old car tires. It was just beautiful. And there's also a great nursery here in Abu Dhabi, and they have this vegetable garden just to demonstrate to children how it's working, and to teach them respect about our planet. And I think it's also important to share the best practices on social media, but also in your school, in your organization, so we can learn from each other. So I think big, very big, but start very small. The why is not very complicated. Everyone agrees that we have to save our planet, but the how, that's always much more difficult, because then you have to change something in your behavior. And I think then it's very important to start very small. Like I live in a street in Abu Dhabi and there is always trash on the street. It's just, there live people here and they always throw it on the street. Well, I start cleaning it myself now, sometimes with my children if they are motivated to do that. And if I go to my work, I just bring my own coffee cup and have my own lunchbox. And if you're in the classroom, you can inspire your students by telling stories. You could lead by example, just if you are a school leader. And what I always do in the change projects in schools, sorry for this noise, that's my doorbell. I always tell the teachers, try to think of one new thing you want to do different. And you do it for about 4 or 5 weeks, and then it's integrated into your system. That's always very helpful. So if we talk about the results, and you also mentioned that, but I will give a short summary. If you use the people, planet, and profit model, it will boost your human capital enormously, because it will improve the well-being of everyone. It will give you new energy. It will also boost your reputation, because you have a strong story to share now with your community. And in the end, it will give you more new clients, like you told me for Tesla or Patagonia or Starbucks. And of course, the most important part is that we create and we work on a better world for our children. So that's my story. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Minknol, for giving your views. And she said, and she has given the example of the Tata Steel, how they are polluting the planet in Netherlands, because they are one of the biggest steel manufacturer. And she says that basically the education plays a very key role. And if we will educate the children from the very beginning how to respect the planet, then definitely the things can move in a PPP model. But for that, one has to do it themselves. And she says, if a school principal, if she is drinking a cup of coffee from the plastic cup or throwing the garbage outside, then what is the use? So one has to inculcate himself or herself these values, then try to pass to the students and the young children, so then they can change, and that is very much required. Otherwise, she also said the same thing, that what is going to happen if we will lose everything. Thank you very much, Ms. Ming, for giving your views. Now I would like to invite my next panelist guest, and he is Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal. Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal is the president of Indo-Gulf Management Association, Dubai, UAE. He is ranked among the 251 most fabulous global education leaders. Welcome, Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, on our show. Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, Dr. Madhu Datta has given her views, very, very clear views about the PPP, in which she mentioned about the Starbucks model. She has given how the companies who are taking care of all the two P's, definitely they are making the profit and they are having a large percentage in the market share. Then Professor Washington spoke about the importance of the people and especially the employees. And Miss Mink has mentioned about how to educate the children. The education plays a very, very important role so that we can have the people, planet, and profit in business. Now, you are being a business leader in one way, that because you are an innovative marketing person and you are involved with a Indo-Gulf Management Association. Definitely, we would like to know your views on people, planet, and profit in business. Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, please. Please unmute. Please unmute.
Thank you very much, Mr. Goel, for this wonderful opportunity to be with my wonderful colleagues here on three different countries. And it's really a great pleasure to listen to them and now contribute a few, perhaps, footnotes, or as they call, 2 bits here or there, in order to complete the discussion. I think you have already launched me into a direction which I should take, and which is the business direction. You have said, and correctly so, that an organization needs to identify the right framework to implement it, and not only to implement it, to measure it. Because we say in management, and perhaps it is now accepted thing everywhere, that if you wish to improve anything, measure it. Measure it before, measure it during, measure it after. So therefore, let me talk about the measurement issue relating to 3 Ps. The day John Elkington talked about these 3 Ps as the model for business in the US, as opposed to the single bottom line, that the word that we had heard before in US, he had no idea at that time that this particular issue will catch on very quickly. And not only it will catch on, it will also create its own complexities and perhaps challenges for the organizations, because the concept is beautiful. The measurement of this concept is not so beautiful. The thought is beautiful, the importance is beautiful, but perhaps how to measure it is still a problem. And that's the reason why most of the time seminars, conferences, symposia, all of them on this particular topic have been evading how to measure, rank, various companies or various organizations, if not companies, even all of us on this 3 P. And reason is that each P has its own measurement currency. For instance, look at the profit. The profit has a currency called dollar or pound or whichever economic unit that you have for that particular country. So that will be the way that people check. Profit has no other measurement other than the currency, the economic currency that we have. If we take the second part of it, and which is people, the currency or the one which is by which is measured varies from country to country. For instance, in one particular country, it could be employment. In second country, it could be gainful employment. And in the third country, it could be flexible employment. Now, in what way we are going to uniformly measure this aspect is still a very, very major issue. And therefore, just I'm telling you one little thing, that how do we provide employment with the way the definition concept itself is changing from one country to another, depending upon the economic state of that. For instance, usually the advanced countries, the rich countries, they usually look for flexi employment. While on the other hand, the countries which are on the lower spectrum of the economic development, they look for employment. And somewhere a little bit in between, they will be looking for gainful employment, employment which provides them the abilities, at the same time livelihood, and at the same time some kind of excitement to enjoy the life the way they live. Let's take the third P, and that third P will be the sustainability of the planet. Are we talking about only toxic effects of the business that you are doing? Are we talking about the technology to tackle it? Are we talking about the social environment in which it is being done? Are we talking about the tolerance level of the society for that thing? For instance, we just heard about Tata Steel. Now, Tata Steel also has some of the finest standards of planet saving in India. Now, it looks like that in Netherlands or in other places, they are not seen the way they are seen in other countries. So therefore, again, the socio-economic context, the ability of the people to handle it, technology that is available, and it is not just the willingness of the company, but also the technology that is available. And plus, as I said, socio-economic context that will also determine the ability as well as the outcome of a company to save the planet. So what do we do? So that is number one question. Number two, in the same measurement issue I'm talking, that what kind of weightage do we need to give? Should we give equal 33% to all the three when we are measuring the outcome of a company on these three or triple bottom line? Or should we have a variable thing? Now, again, this is a very, very major issue, that which company, which country, and how it is to be uniformly measured. So this is the second part. Should we give more weightage to the profit because we require investments back into the business? Or should we take care of the people more because the people are not very well treated fairly, justly and all? Or should we really take care of the planet because as correctly said, that since there is no business on the dead planet, but at the same time, the dead planet could also be the dead business also in some cases from that point of view. So therefore, there is a major circular, vicious, virtuous circle happening in those kind of cases. So this is the second issue I'm just saying. So what is the outcome? Probably the way out will be to create an index. And this particular index could be the same way as either we had at one point of time the GDP, or we had the GNP, or later on we had the Human Development Index, HDI. If Human Development Index can be created by a particular either organization which is unbiased, which is research-based, and which is applicable with mutatis mutandis. I mean, I wouldn't say totally away, but mutatis mutandis, little bit change here or there. So that if we can do, then possibly the organizations can adopt that and measure it continuously from 1 year to another, so that we can measure the progress correctly, accurately, and the organizations will also feel better that we are making changes, we are making progress, we are creating this impact. It will not be. So this is the thing that I would like to see. So the question will be that how to develop this probably 3PL index in the same way we have got Human Development Index. Now, Human Development Index, as you know, Dr. Amrit Sen, he created this based on his own insights, his own research, with the help of so many countries' contribution. And as a result, it became an accepted, or at least largely accepted, framework for measuring a country, which could be very, very good on GDP index or GNP index, but may not be so on HDI index. The same way I could say that there should be 3PL index. Now, this is the thing that I would like to say in order to, make my own contribution or little, that let's work towards that. Let's work towards an index which is largely applicable or broadly applicable, and which can be perhaps, as I said, applied mutatis mutandis. Can this be done by an organization? Can it be done by an individual? Can it be done by an institution, academic research and all? Probably, yes, all three could also be there, but we do not know the answer as yet. As this, at this particular moment, all organizations are taking it as the way they understood it, as the way they applied it, and as the way they feel proud of it. But there's no universal index to measure and rank the companies on this 3PL because of the inherent operational and also conceptual issues involved in it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Goel, for this.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, for giving your views. Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, although he says that we require these 3 Ps, which are very, very important, but he says very, very difficult. First, we should understand the measurement. And he says that the unfortunate part is that no one has done the measurements, or few might have done before, during, and after. Once you are setting up a project, what is the measurement of these 3 Ps? And according to him, we should have like GDP, we should have a HDI also, Human Development Index. Then only we will be able to do it. But how and when we will do it, that is a separate thing. But he says we have to change, and he has also quoted the Dr. Amrit Sen, and he says that it is required if we want to see to it that all the 3 Ps or the 3 Ps to be integrated along with the business. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal, for giving your views. Now my question goes to Dr. Madhu Datta. Dr. Madhu Datta, you have mentioned about the climate, and you have mentioned how the Starbucks is keeping and all those things. But we have seen recently the Glasgow Climate Summit 2021, where all the top heads were there. All the presidents or the prime ministers of all the countries, the top countries were there, and they were discussing. But what they have discussed, whether it is going to be implemented or not, that is a separate aspect. But I would like to know whether it is a success or it is just a lip service. As Dr. Mohanlal Agrawal says that we are talking, but it's a good thought about this 3PP, but practical or not, that is still to be measured. So similarly, what they have spoken that like India says that 2030, it will reduce by 50% the carbon emission, and 2070, 0%. We would like to know from you, and others also spoke the same way, whether it's just a lip service or really it is something which they meant.
What a great question, Mr. Goel, I must say. I think early on in my career, I used to look at things in black and white. And I'm speaking most particularly about these climate summits and, declarations, treaties. I mean, we don't have to ask whether it's going to happen or not, because there has been, right from the Kyoto Protocol, there has been a historic sort of understanding that most of our targets have not been met. And again, countries have come together, just not at this COP, but other larger conferences and other COPs over the years. And so the short answer is probably not. We are not going to meet the things we are talking about. But then I think we need to take a more nuanced view, because there was a time not too long ago that there was, we had to actually prove to people that climate change was real. And at least now we have come to the table and accepted that, this is happening. And so with every conference, with every conversation, with every coming together, there is progress, not perfection. And what is very interesting for us to note is that as much as we do want all these countries to come together, because that kind of top-down planning creates transformational change, the truth of the matter is that our problems, whether they're related to climate, whether they're related to human development, social justice, green equity, and so on, really is context-based and can be understood best at a local level, a city level, and then its interconnections at a regional scale. So as much as there are world countries all across the world that are talking about this and talking a lot about it, but doing very little, there has been a lot of sea change in both the private, the nonprofit, as well as the local sectors. And so, for example, the New York City, London, Boston, and many others have taken on and created their own climate action plans and have started to adapt to climate because they realize good climate planning is good financial planning. And it goes without saying that you need to protect and preserve the life and quality of the people. So I'll say the view is mixed. I wish there was more done, but I think that every step is closer to and better than not doing anything. And there is one thing I just want to say, and this is something, there seems to be this argument all the time that countries like India and China, they should be allowed to pollute more because they need to get to a level of industrialization that, let's say, the US or Canada and so on have done. And, that's all very well. We understand it in the trajectory of time. And this is not to condone what the US or Canada have done because their energy per capita is very, very high compared to countries such as India or even China. But the truth of the matter is that, if India says, we're not going to do any climate control, we're not going to stop burning greenhouse, stop sending out greenhouse emissions, nobody is going to suffer more than the Indians themselves. And you can't put a gated community in any country of the world and say, oh, I'm only going to pollute here and it's not going to go there. And just because you did it, I'll do it here, but I'm going to escape miraculously. It's not going to happen. So, looking at other countries who have already made such big blunders in terms of how they have treated the environment and so on, like US and Canada, they cannot be held up as examples for countries which are so heavily populated, such as China and India. So I just want to put it out there, wanted to take this forum to make the point, but thank you so much for your question.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Madhu, for giving your views. Now, my question goes to Mr. Washington. Mr. Washington, you spoke about the employees, but then business, if we see the model, hire and fire, and the customer is emperor. Now, we have this thing which are been taught or which were told earlier. Do you think where the employees, because we are classifying, no, customer is not the people, only the people are employees, or if we are talking about the people, then the customer is emperor, and if an employee is not doing well, he is to be fired. So the hire and fire policy is always in existence, and it is there, especially in the Western, like US, etc. But where is the question of the employees? Because you have mentioned about the employees. So I am asking you, the people only the employees, or we will have to see the everyone, including the customer, including the grower, the farmers, and everyone is to be included, or only the employees? Mr. Washington.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Goel. Yes, it is an interesting point, and I really like the question. The question, when we say people, we go beyond just a customer. Of course, customers are included. They need to be understood. Why are they there? Why are they buying a product? Why are they making a business essential? Why are they buying from a particular service? Why are they coming to a particular school? What is happening with the customer to start with? Then we move on to the employees who are producing the product. How are they feeling when they're producing the product? Why are they staying with the same organization for a long time? Are they happy? Are they engaged? Because from my research, I realized that you could have employees for more than even 5-10 years, yet they're not engaged. They are there to make money and go home. They don't care what is happening there. So we are looking at the planet. the planet we are talking about, it is what we see out there. Now we talk of the emission in the air. If these people who are responsible for producing burning the gases, burning the charcoal, and make the products are not happy, do you think they're committed to reduce? What dangers are they making? They are just doing it unethically. So what I'm trying to say is people should be understood more, because I believe from people are the people who are making profit. We are making profit for the people, and the people are the core in this triple bottom line. So employees are big issues. Consumers are big issues. Unfortunately, now the world where we are going, there are so many things that are very subjective, that a lot of organizations, they don't understand about their own employees. So many differences they don't understand. They have got so many employees, and they treat them as numbers in that organization. Yet there are so many things that are going through their minds. How could you then make them to collaborate and make the world greener when these people have got different feelings? They don't feel happy. They are just there to pay their bills. So the treatment of employees should be maybe a fundamental to produce a product. The treatment of the employees should be fundamental to make a product for customers, for the customers to come and buy happily. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Washington.
Thank you.
Now my question goes to Ms. Ming. Ms. Ming, you have mentioned about Tata Steel. And you know the history that Tata Steel took over that company. It was an existing company. And the very clear thing which was taught in the business college schools is business of business is business. Now think of the people. So many employees were there. That steel company was sick company, which they have taken over. And they had, so basically they have taken care of those people, the employees which Mr. Washington is talking. So 1P was taken care, whether it's the employees or the consumer, the customer. And the secondly, as Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal mentioned, the Tatas are doing lots of social work in different countries, especially in India. We have seen how they are setting up the schools or the hostels, or even for the climate change, whatsoever maximum things can be done. So my point is, if the business house, any business house, if they will only think about the climate, about the people only, then, and if they will not earn money, if there is no profit, then there will be no business. So the theory of that business of business is business it stands nowhere. What you say about this, Ms. Ming?
Thank you for your question. I think balancing is very important for Tata Steel, of course, but you also see the opposite, because you see companies and they only think about people and planet, and they forget profit, and they won't survive in the end. You see that a lot in the Netherlands, I must say. They think, oh, we're not allowed to make profit, only we have to think about the planet and the people, but that's not going to work, because everyone needs to make a living. So for Tata Steel, the balancing is very important, but I think that's important for all the companies, and that's when you need a new model, and you have to set goals and standards, like you told in your presentation, and so you can measure, and then you can and then you can change your complete business approach, and that's what you have to do, I think.
Okay, thank you. So the balance is required for all to keep the 3 Ps. Now my question goes to Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal. Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal, Dr. Madhu mentioned one thing, that India and China should be allowed to emit more, and so that or in other way that they can pollute the climate. What we are seeing in Delhi, stubble burning, thermal power plants, vehicles, and construction. And today, the Delhi condition is that it has become every day the Supreme Court is hearing and giving that, and it has become, and you know better because you are going there frequently and you know the condition. It has become a gas chamber. Now, if we will not think, and if the only we will think about, as you mentioned about the business, if we will only think about the business, and if the, as our earlier panelist says, if the people will not be there, what business, what you are going to sell, or what business we will do, or what profit will make? So how to measure and how to say that India, if India is allowed to emit more carbon or more pollutants, then what is the condition of the human being? We are forgetting the people, those who are living there, the children's, how they are suffering. What you say about this, Dr. Mohanlal Agarwal?
I think Dr. Madhu was absolutely right, and I think she hit the nail totally on the head when she said that why should everyone be allowed the same time just because they are on different trajectory of time to do the same bad things that others had done before. They forget 2 or 3 things, and I'm afraid I totally agree with her, and I'm not on the side of India here, and which is that these people, when they polluted, technology was not available, appropriate technology was not available. And plus, you were also there at that time. You were also polluting at that time. So it is not that Americans were polluting and Indians were creating or planting trees during that particular time. They were also polluting. Only America was polluting more because it was industrializing more. But then also keep in mind technology, resources, and awareness of the people. Now, all those things are in favor of employment, of environment. So why should they be allowed the time, whether it is India or China? I think they should fall in line with the global need of keeping everyone safe, rather than saying you did this for so many years and therefore I should also be given about the same. But this is stupid. It's lose-lose game. It is not a win-win game. It is almost like 2 children fighting that since he did this for so many hours, I should also be allowed that much time. This is not that game. It is a collective game. It is a collective destiny. And I'm sure US would not have polluted if there was technology available. But now technology is available. Now means are available. Education is there. Younger people are there. So I don't think India and China have that kind of standing, in my humble opinion, although I come from there, because we all are suffering, as you correctly said. But one thing I would like to go back to, Ms. Ming, when you had asked that question of Tata Steel. Believe me, I do not hold brief for Tata Steel. But I also know exactly the wonderful question that you had asked, that they had taken over the business of the company which was sick and or almost like sick, and they took it over. You see, as I mentioned earlier, ma'am, there is a staircase of priorities. You cannot do all things at the same time, at the same step. You have to go slowly from one day. The first thing for that particular company was to save the companies. Tata Steel never made a profit from that particular venture, from that particular investment. Second thing was they needed to keep them in employment, because otherwise, there would have been social upheaval if the people were let go. And then only, I'm not saying, then only they could find resources towards that. The beautiful thing about that is that Tatas are fully aware, fully intending, and fully attuned to the need of this sustainability or the third planet wherever they go. In this particular case, unfortunately, the staircase was long and they couldn't go or reach the top immediately because of those things. So that's the thing I would say. Thank you, Mr. Goel, for this very wonderful question.
Thank you very much. Now I would like to go in the last round, and that is only, it will be 30 seconds to all of you. And that will be any suggestion you would like to give to the corporates or to the government or to the public, anyone, which can give us this 3 Ps which we are talking today. Dr. Madhu Datta, please. 30 seconds, please. Well, please unmute, please unmute.
Sorry. Great, 30 seconds. So here's what I have to say. We need to get from light bulbs to laws because we have the technology, but we don't have the ways and methods to make it law. So we absolutely need that.
Okay.
And the other thing I'm going to say is that this is a game where we have to create champions of change. So all for one and one for all. We can't do it alone.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Madhu. Now, Mr. Washington, one suggestion, any one suggestion from your side. Please unmute. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, 30 seconds. I believe that we should really encourage a shift from how we see things in this world right now. We need to consider